We are live on all the things. We get our faces up somewhere here. Somewhere. Getting there. All right.
All right, we're live.
I think we're live.
All right, welcome everybody. I'm Jawad Shadzi, and this is Nate Stewart. We're here to answer all your questions about 034 Motorsport. Anything you'd like to know, this is a Ask Us Anything style format. Put your question into the browser of your choice. Take a no BS approach to responding to questions, and
General spiel.
Yeah, we don't ask us about when things are going to be ready. Well, I don't know.
As quickly as we can get them done is our answer.
Yeah, there's really no good answer for that stuff most of the time. But anything you want to know about the company, our history, anything about us personally, anything about our products, philosophy, whatever, let us know. All right, so we got some questions coming in already. B9 S5 Sportback resonator delete and pipe options. I think the new ResX. So I know the S5 is a little different. Does our normal ResX fits the S5 too? No. Okay, so but our
front one will.
The front ones will. So we have some front resonator deletes, which they replace the pipes coming off the cats, the down pipes that connect from the cats to the factory exhaust. We will have those out soon. Very similar to the ones we have for the RS5. If you want to check those out on our website, still a ResX product, but that will be available for the S5. Should have those in the next few months. You recommend super lube for the sway bar bushing, but is there any grease needed between the sway bar and end links, or the end links and the trailing arm?
No, those you do not want movement there.
Well, the movement is accounted for in the heims or the end links, and we don't recommend greasing those because all of our sphericals and heims are self-lubricating Teflon or factory style ball joint end links with already grease inside. So the connection between the end link and the sway bar and the end link and the control arm are solid connections. So you just want to torque those down to spec. There's been a lot of talk in the BA community about still having issues with climax.
So that's the new DSG update we did.
Yeah, for the V8. You know, I don't know if I'd call them issues. Initially, we had 2 people who still had the gear drop problem out of hundreds and hundreds. And so we addressed that right away over the weekend and fixed that.
Yep.
Since there's been some user feedback, we would call it, that people are giving us feedback on the quality or the style of shifting that we chose, that we curated into the file. Early feedback from all our beta users was positive. There were no complaints about it. But now that we've gotten many hundreds of people running it, we're getting more people's input. And so there's not issues. There's nothing wrong. I mean, the transmission shifting, capably. It's just the speed or the urgency of shifting. And so we're making some refinements based on user feedback, but I don't think they're issues. But if you think it's an issue,
we had a couple little tweaks. We're rolling into a new version coming out that addressed some like light loads behaviors, but it was nothing like performance, oriented. And then the shift speed. It's just a matter of finding that balance that is the most desired for everybody out there. But no, we've got tons of people running that file now.
Nate's beard is gone.
Beard is gone. Yeah, I
didn't even notice.
Got a haircut this weekend and decided to do the rest of it too. So.
Good.
Yep.
Always support 034. However, as of late, we cannot defend customer service. On many occasions, me and my buddies have waited weeks for a response for tuning, oftentimes never getting a response back. I'm sorry to hear that. That's not, something that, not getting a response is not okay. Yeah. So we'll look into that. Your name has been noted, and we're looking into it right now. Log reviews can take time. We've inundated with hundreds of log reviews at a time, so those aren't always going to be as quick. And I wouldn't say log reviews are customer service. That's a tuning support, service that we offer. Customer service,
if it's not issue related, it gets tricky to try and prioritize those. But it shouldn't be. It sounds like something was not followed up on here from the notes I'm seeing here. So we should be getting back to everyone. So we'll take a look and see what happened there.
Yeah, and for anyone who isn't getting a response, in a timely manner, especially weeks, definitely follow up and contact us. Sometimes tickets do get lost, or
we're working a lot on changing the ticketing system and the tools we have to better manage the type and number of tickets we get. We're doing everything we can to get back to everybody as quickly as we can. So if you're not feeling that, light us up.
Definitely let us. Well, thanks for letting us know, and we certainly want to address those concerns. Will the Forum Q7 3.0 T-Tune fully disengage the supercharger clutch?
Disengage?
It is.
It will. Yeah. It's. We will have both fixed clutch, meaning for a modified, basically fused clutch without the stock magnetic actuator in there. Yeah. But the normal tune, it's going to disengage because there's no reason not to. You're going to get a lot better efficiency and fuel economy on light load stuff with that disengaged. So that's the reason it's there.
I will say, on my Q7, you can feel the supercharger.
Oh yeah, all the CRECs you feel, because you got a big amount of inertia that it's got to spin up there when the supercharger comes online.
So it would be nice to take that out of the equation, but losing economy also doesn't sound good.
Yeah, there's no freebie. Yeah. It's one or the other. So it's not the smoothest engaging thing. There's
you definitely feel it kind of kick in.
Yeah, there's strategies to try and blend it with the amount of current you give that clutch, but it's still a lot of mass to spin up, and balancing that with
it almost feels like an old torque converter,
It's the lock,
just kind of hitting the lock up, So, some of these questions, I don't know if it's worth getting into.
Some weird ones here. Let's see. That
one. Last week you mentioned running 315s on your Q7. What wheel setup do you have? Any spacers? So I'm running 034 21 by 10 forged ZTF wheels. And then I'm running the Michelin, what is it? It's like the PS4 for SUVs. It's an SUV tire. I think it's a 40 series. Don't quote me, but it's a 315. I think it's a 315 40.
I think so, 40.
Yeah. No spacers needed. The only thing that needed to be done is there's one screw in the front fender for the fender liner, and you just need to remove that screw because it will rub on that screw, and that's with our lowering springs. Stock height, it won't rub. But with our lowering springs, lowers it enough where that screw kind of touches. So I think I may at one point have run a 2 millimeter spacer in the front, or I think there's a 2.5 millimeter something in the front, because the 315 it will rub on the upright a little bit, maybe under cornering if the tire squishes around a little bit. It wasn't bad, it wasn't even noticeable, but I ran one set of tires for 30,000 miles, and when we took them off, we noticed some of that rubbing. So I think we put a spacer on the front like again, like 2 mil, just to move it out a little bit, which fixed that. And then remove the screw. So yeah, very relatively bolt-on setup for having that much.
It's going to depend a ton on what tire you put on too.
Yeah,
they're all not created equal.
I don't know what other 315/40s are out there, but Michelin makes it for the SUV specifically. You could probably run a 295 and have no issues at all. Like just bolt it on stick it on the tires. I wanted to push it as far as I could, just to let people know what's possible. So with very minimal to no modifications virtually. And you can always add that screw back in after you if you want to sell the car or something. It's not a permanent modification. Do I need a tune after putting a cold air intake? You do if you want to realize the extra power. We talk about this a lot on here. These ECUs are torque request, and so even if the ECU sees more air coming in, it's still only going to deliver a certain amount of torque through the engine. So what we do in our tunes is we open up the torque request, and the ECU will ask for more power if the additional airflow is available. So you can put any of our intakes on a stock ECU just fine, but don't expect to make a lot more power until you have a tune that does what I just said. What's the best bang for the buck performance mod for a B8 S4? I mean, definitely stage 1.
Yeah, tuning.
Stage 1 tune is going to be your best bang for the buck. You get
we got power. Full carb exempt file offerings for those, so you can do it totally legally. Same with the intake we have. You can get some pretty healthy mods on that thing. That'll substantially change it. And then I guess other bang for the buck would be like, what kind of driving are you doing? Are you carving up a bunch of corners? And I'd say sway bars, springs, probably more of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you don't care about power, then I would say start with sway bars and then lowering springs. You could do springs and sway bars at the same time. It's not a lot of money, and that will transform the handling of the car.
Yep.
Let's see. I remember a while back watching a video where you guys mentioned the service intervals being thrown out the window once tuned. What would you recommend for service intervals for Stage 1 B9 S4? Well, I wouldn't say thrown out the window. I think what we said is you want to consider doing things more often or sooner or more frequently. Not necessarily not doing them, but like your diff and transmission fluid, you're not going to want to run those for the lifetime of the car if you're tuned and a spirited driver. So I think I think we need to update some of our recommendations, especially for like spark plugs and things like that.
Yeah, spark plugs are one of the ones people don't.
Spark plugs definitely throw those out the window from the fact that as far as the change intervals from the factory, it's going to be a lot more often. In some cases, on E85 Stage 3 cars, it could be every 3,000 miles. Because the plugs just get a lot more load, use, and wear than on stock. Oil changes you can do more frequently, for sure. I don't know, anything else you think?
Oil changes more frequent for sure.
Training service.
Yeah, the training service. I think Joe touched on that. The training stuff. It's the fluid intervals are pretty long from the factory, so that's one of the biggest spots where you want to keep up to a little more frequently on them. Other things like the air filters and whatnot, that's going to be dependent on what intake you're running and all that. So that's a tougher one to answer globally. But fluids definitely you'll want them, and plugs, and depending on the car. Did it specify which car? It was B9. B9.
B9.
Injectors do go on those things. That's another one that's not really in the maintenance book, but is certainly has a lifespan on those cars.
Recommended mods for a Stage 1 B9 SQ5. Should I get an intercooler? Yes, definitely. You should get an intercooler.
It's very much recommended. Yeah, we have a whole recommended. I mean,
Strongly recommended.
depending on where you're at power wise, or what you're looking for, you can look at our stage 1 on through tuning options. We'll list out the required, and then also what we recommend to get kind of the optimal experience for that power output.
Mm-hmm. Someone says, when are you solving problem? I blow my car and everyone are blowing their cars. Question mark.
Certainly not everyone's
Stage 3 plus TTE A10. Let me see. Yeah, I mean, sorry you're having a problem. There is no E problem that we're aware of. The E85 tunes and the E40 blended tunes,
E60,
and E60 make the most power. And so, horsepower and load is directly correlated to the possibility of blowing your engine anytime. Every time you increase the power output of an engine, certainly an engine that's designed for 350 horsepower, and you go to 750, 800 crank horsepower, you are getting closer and closer to the edge of what that engine's capable of dealing with from a power standpoint. There's nothing inherently unreliable about E85. I don't think we aren't the only company that offers E85 tunes, right? BMW, every performance car aftermarket has E85 tuning. So it sounds like this particular person may have cracked a piston. There does appear to be somewhat of a piston reliability problem from Audi, where we don't know. We don't have anything to show exactly why these pistons are cracking in half. There's nothing in the tuning. There's nothing about E85 that makes a piston crack in half.
And there's been we've got dealer techs who've had, many cars come through with,
stock.
The same issue.
Yeah. So this cracked piston.
It's not necessarily a tune thing, but it is potentially, exacerbating whatever's going on in the stock hardware.
Yeah. The pistons fail in factory OEM tuning applications, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. Everyone isn't blowing their motors, so that's not true. The number of failures are still very, very small. We have the data on that. We know how many engines are having issues, and it's still a relatively small percentage. But there's nothing wrong with E85 or E60, so, there's reports that Audi's looking into this, that there could possibly be a recall at some point about pistons. There's a possible issue with piston skirts. But nothing in the tuning that we know of is causing these engine failures.
Yeah.
Even some of these, there's been some recent people who have verified like lambda in the 0.78 range, and that's very rich.
Yeah,
very, very rich.
Yeah, and we do offer multiple levels of the stage 3 file to provide a bunch more power than stage 2, but still not going for the maximum output.
We're the only tuning company that offers 91, 93, and we have standard output and high output files for our e-files. So if you're concerned, you can lower the power output and move more away from the possibility of a failure by running lower power. But if you want to make 800 horsepower, you're gonna get close to the edge, and some people are going over it. Every motor is a little different, and some of these factory pistons just aren't holding up as good as others. So it's hard to say exactly. We don't have all the answers on why specifically these pistons are cracking. It's not like we are hiding any information or anything like that. We're studying it and collecting data as quickly as we can. I think we are approaching a time where these motors do need rods and pistons. It's kind of crazy that, you know, we're in a market where customers are going from 350 horsepower to 800, and yeah, some motors are failing because that's a lot. That's really pushing it far. So we're currently building motors, and I think at some point it may make sense to recommend rods and pistons for stage 3 high output files if you want to ensure that, you know, your factory piston's not going to crack in half.
And to be clear, we still have not had a failure in-house on any of our development vehicles with the amount of abuse we've put them through with any of these setups. So you know, we're testing the crap out of everything we can here. And getting a lot of miles on them too.
The other challenging thing is, you know, we have not that many customers who've blown motors, but the relatively small number that we have had, very few are willing to cooperate with us to tear the motor down, to give us any information. Yeah. A lot of these guys just go straight to social media and bash us or whatever, and we don't even know. We don't have the opportunity to even study that specific failure. We haven't blown any motors here on any of our cars.
Right.
We have stage 3 cars with 50,000 miles on them, driven very, very hard. So it's to say that kind of the atmosphere out in the social media world is productive, you know, would be false. It's a very challenging atmosphere, you know, to operate in, with trolling and bashing and customers jumping to conclusions, not willing to, do the work to get to the bottom of why something's happening. And there's just a lot of hysteria out there. So we're doing our best to, you know, make as much of it as we can, but it also isn't easy from an engineering standpoint to deal with some of the dynamics out there, because it's just not productive to like finding out what's really going on. But I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with E85 or E85 tunes. E85 is a safe fuel that runs cooler combustion temps and has a very high octane rating, so the chance of detonation is greatly reduced. I've heard rumors that supposedly someone is making the same power as E85 on a 93 file. Have you heard about this?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think
you can push and push and push, and
you can push it really, really hard, and especially if you dumb down the NOx sensors, you know, you can run a lot of timing. Yep. And engines make a lot of power when they're pre-detonated. But you've blown plenty out of the shop. Stop the lies. I don't think so. I'd love to know what this person knows. We're not lying.
We've lifted head gaskets. We've done a bunch of stuff. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's maybe, if this is the guy, there's one guy that had his stock plugs melted, and is that the guy that kept running with the melted plugs?
I'm not sure.
Yeah. But no, I mean, we've done a lot of stage 3 cars. They're local here. They're not blowing up. Like, we literally wouldn't be able to be in business if we were blowing up lots of cars, especially through a service department.
And he took a sip. What's in the cup? It's water. Yeah.
Yep. There's another question about improving fueling. We are working on giving the fuel system even more headroom, but our standard output files have plenty of fueling headroom, and even our high output files are running pretty rich lambdas. So there's really not, you know, unless you have an injector that's clogged, which we've heard of blown, you know, we've inspected or received information about.
We've had some injector sink back, and we have found, yes, there have been injector issues.
I mean, if you blow up your motor and you send us your injectors and 2 of them are running at 50%, you know, then yeah, that makes sense. We've seen engine failures due to melted spark plugs, which again, spark plugs need to be changed pretty frequently, especially on high output stage 3 cars, as often as every 3,000 miles. We've heard of people having misfires and continuing to run their car until it blows up. But again, these are pretty rare. We have 10, 20 times more customers who are enjoying their cars and having no issues. So, I mean, before you call me a liar, dude, I've been in this industry since '96. You don't get to be where I am from lying for 25 years. So I don't lie.
Well, and it's tough too with all these, like, people love to just lob facts without any factual information behind them.
Well, there's lots of lying.
What examples do we?
You have Mario, who's posting quote unquote blown motors from us on a regular basis with no information.
There's zero follow up. So.
No information. Yeah, and that guy's a liar. He's literally posted fake draggies. I've never been caught for lying in this industry, ever. I'm not that stupid. I mean, I wouldn't let myself get caught lying. I wouldn't lie. Lies get revealed. You can't cover up the tracks of your lies. So it's just better to just face the truth, which is what I do. Yeah, I mean, 034 Motorsport is currently one of the most reputable tuning companies in the world. And it's because we're honest and transparent. Because Nate and I come up here every week and look you guys in the eyes and tell you the truth. I'm sorry if you had any problem with your motor, dude, but we're not lying. Can I still use cruise control with 034 advanced launch control?
Yes, of course. We would not disable cruise control.
Yeah.
So the advanced launch stuff is completely out of the game, out of the picture, and as soon as the vehicle's moving. It's just for setting up and getting off the line.
For the original question of the blown motor, thank you for answering. I know too bad because I know you need to pay to play. With this tune, believe I have my best car with you guys. Thank you and God bless.
Okay.
No, I mean, if there's anything we can do to help, if there's, I don't know who this is specifically, but all we ask is work with us to do a deep dive into what happened and try to figure out if you want to send us the motor, we'll pay the freight. If we can review your logs, anything you can do to help us get to the bottom of why you specifically had an issue. But there isn't one issue that these cases all have in common. There's a myriad of modes of failure. This isn't a new thing. 2.7Ts used to blow up. 1.8Ts used to blow up. 3.0Ts have been blowing up, the supercharged motors. 3Bs used to blow. AANs used to blow up. Motors blow when you push the limits. In the 2.7T and 1.8T days, people would rush to do rods right away. We used to sell 5 forged piston packages a day, in the early 2010s. Just pallets of 2.7T rods and pistons going out the door. Nowadays, nobody wants to touch their motor. Nobody wants to crack it. Even changing the, to head studs is a big deal. But people they'd get an A4, they'd build the motor, put studs, forged everything, and then they'd go out and make like 400 crank.
Right. And then the numbers we're talking are
which the new Mark 8's doing like 450 at the wheels, on a stock motor. So it's just people's mentality have changed. Everyone's trying to push these stock motors as far as they can.
Right. And to be clear, we're not trying to push beyond what we feel is and what
we're not trying to. We're not trying to, but we're also trying to meet the market expectations, which everybody wants to make 1,000 horsepower on the stock motor. So at some point, we can get close to perfect reliability, but we're going to have cases that that fall over into the other side based on all the variables. Okay. On a dual pulley B8.5, do I have to change cats, or you have safe tune to accommodate them?
Yeah, no, we have stock catalyst files for those. Yeah, absolutely. So no,
I mean, with that said, the factory cats haven't been the most reliable.
they have a lifespan, but they're good catalysts. They you don't really take that big of a
They
hit
flow good.
having them in there, so we strongly recommend you run them. It's just a matter of making sure they're healthy and they're not breaking down like they will over time.
New Climax tune has my third gear feeling like it's climaxed now. LOL. Any word on updates to the tunes?
But yeah, we've got some updates that'll be pushing to the public.
Yeah. It's the third, fourth shift.
I'm guessing that's the third, fourth shift. Was a little spicy for what people wanted.
It's also, it feels different whether you have like stock mounts or
it's very dependent on how much movement you've got on the drive.
If you have kind of sloppy mounts, the shift feels more abrupt. If you have like motorsport mounts, it just feels like a really solid shift
into the gear.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, there'll be some updates coming, and we've talked about doing like a race version and then a normal version with those spicier shifts. So we'll see about that. But there will be some updates coming in the future, or very near future.
Okay. Is there any launch difference between an S4 with a sports diff and an S4 without B8.5?
Nope. That's not part of it. I mean, other than the traction, potentially
not in the tuning.
Not in the tuning, but potentially
you're probably going to get a better launch with a sports diff. It's going to do a better job of hooking up both tires. But yeah, that has nothing to do with the calibrating.
Yeah, it's independent of the ECU.
I just ordered yesterday sway bar and links for an A7 C7.5 competition package. Do I need or you recommend to do any upgrades in the front as well? I'm not using mine on track. Yeah, so this is what we always say is if you're looking for that increased level of oversteer, then just do the rear bar, which would mean you go into a corner and you lift off the throttle, and the back end will help the car turn as the back end comes out more. If you're just looking for less body roll and flatter cornering, and you're not really interested at driving at the limit, then I do recommend doing the front bar as well. That's just going to give you that flatter, sharper steering feeling. The car will still turn better than stock with the front bar, but that kind of over-exaggerated rear biased oversteer attitude is going to be less pronounced with the front bar. So if you want, you can do the rear bar first. You will feel flatter cornering with the front bar. Since most of the weight is in the front of the car, you're going to get the biggest body roll improvement by doing the front and rear. I was told by tuning support that on my B9.710 E60 file that I was out of injection window. Why is this if I have all the necessary hardware?
Well, I mean that's you're out of you're out of any additional fueling, but I don't know,
headroom.
Yeah, headroom, or we've the file is set up to a point where it is where we want to operate with the given amount of fuel provided. So that's just always the case on literally any hardware combination out there. There are limits of injection for every single configuration of hardware.
Yeah. I mean, maybe we need to look into if we could look into this ticket specifically to see what he was told. Sure but if he's within the normal range of operation, then I don't know why we would tell him he was out of injection window.
Yeah, I don't know if he's asking for something to
do we have his information? Yeah. Let's look. We'll look into that for you, sir. Can I install my downpipe and front mount intercooler with a stage 1 tune? In general, not a downpipe. No. Our stage 1 tunes are all designed for the factory catalytic converter. So you'll want to keep the cat, but you can and you should do a front mount intercooler and an intake.
Yeah, definitely get the intercooler on there.
Does anyone know if the B8.5 doesn't have a sports diff? What kind of diff it has? Well, it's just going to have a normal.
It'll just
diff.
be open, yeah.
Which is what 99% of all cars have in the back is just an open diff, which means the differential will send torque to the wheel with the most traction, but if one wheel has no traction, it will send all the torque to that. So it's a problem with open diffs.
Well, it sends torque to the least traction. Well, it sends.
Well, that's what I said.
You get the same amount of torque at both wheels, is what it does.
Yeah, and until one wheel has less torque, less traction, and then it sends more torque to the wheel.
Your total amount of torque then across both wheels dramatically decreases.
Yeah.
But they're still getting the same amount of torque.
Which is why when you do a burnout in like a rear or even a front wheel drive car with an open diff, you'll peg leg. You'll spin usually the right tire because the diff will just send all the power to the tire with the least traction. So that's the problem with open diffs. Usually with an open diff, you want to operate both tires within the traction, that's available. As soon as you lose traction, then it's basically a short circuit, and the diff just unloads all the torque to the spinning tire. So what a limited slip diff does is it will like specifically like something like a quaif or even the factory sport diff, it knows which tire has traction, so it's always biasing torque towards the wheel with the most traction. And if it's both, then it's both.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of different styles out there, and how they're going to do the torque management. Some are active, like the sport diff, where it's got sun gears and a bunch of wizardry with hydraulics and things to do that. There's other stuff like the Torsons, which are going to be a percentage of the lowest amount of torque. You're going to get that much more percentage torque sent to the higher tractive tire. So there's all kinds of different ways to do it.
There's even like
there's clutch plates
with clutches,
with ramps and
clutch plates, and on that have a certain amount of slip to them.
Yep. Yeah, those are going to be those are much less a differential. In lots of cases, they're more just a friction plate.
Yeah. So. The nice thing about the wave tracks is they're torque biasing like a quaif. But they also have a locking ramp mechanism as well, so they can lock up as well. So it's kind of the best of both. Yep. That's my recommendation. If you can do a rear diff, do
as far as like a daily streetable differential upgrade, they're really
even a race car up to a certain point, and then you want to get into a clutch diff.
Yeah, Jay's retrofitting them into D8s now.
Yeah,
again,
that's going to be better than the sport diff.
Want to do the top one?
Yeah, we can do that. Javad's about to tell me I need a billet oil cap. That's true, I am. So we haven't released this one yet because we've been working on it for a while, but we finally have our B9 billet oil cap available. It'll be released next week, so this is a little preview. But this is more than just a pretty cap. This cap has a much tighter engagement than the factory oil cap, and there's been issues, including we had, where the factory oil cap has fallen off. We actually burned one of our development cars down when our PCV hose failed and pressurized the crankcase. What happens when you pressurize the crankcase is the pressure pushes up on the oil cap, which loosens its tightness. This oil cap is just really loose from the factory. You can just easily loosen it with just 2 fingers. So it's not very tight even by factory standards. So we actually put a torque wrench. We created a fixture that we could measure the torque that it took to release the factory cap, and we designed something that's about four times more torque than the factory cap. It's much tighter locking fit, and it's also billet and sexy, and that's nice. But in the event that you have a PCV hose failure, this cap will stay on much better than the factory one. And we did that through making the sealing gasket thicker, and also stiffening up in the profile of the spring tabs that load up when the cap is tightened. So in fact, this can be so tight, once it's on the motor, it kind of locks on there. It gets hot, and it just kind of sticks really good. So we are offering a free STL file for anyone who wants to 3D print their own tool, which you could keep inside the car. And we're also providing a dimension drawing so you could make your own. I made this one out of wood, and also kind of cool. You can keep this in the car, find a place for it in the engine compartment or something. And I think it'd also be cool to see if anyone out there comes up with their own design, which we'd be happy to put on the site for other users. These are free, open to the community type things.
Just make the oil cap so tight only a man can open.
Yeah, or a woman with this tool, or a man. Here's the reality: is it gets hot and it's really tight, so you're gonna want a tool like this. So, anyways, we thought it'd be kind of a fun thing that we could try to see if stimulate people's imagination. It'd be fun to see what people can do out of wood or metal or other materials.
I was asking, how about a non-cracking oil dipstick to go with the cap thing? What dipstick?
Oil dipstick?
Yeah, people like to put
Yeah, what's
Non-cracking?
I believe the tip is plastic or something like that.
I don't know.
It's a craft.
Yeah, maybe some. I'm assuming it's some aftermarket.
Oh yeah. I think there's plenty of that stuff out there, but yeah. So, anyways, these will be for sale on our website next week. Check out look for our social media or an email if you're on our list. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. It's just an oil cap, but we thought we could make a nice improvement to the whole loosening thing. B9 RS5 inlet intake pipe instead of looking elsewhere. I love to match my 0 through 4 intake. Yes, we are finalizing our version, and we hope to have it to market this summer. So please hang tight a little longer. We will be offering like a carbon fiber inlet pipe that goes to both turbos, and it will flow a lot more than the stock. Should I replace my motor mounts before getting stage 1? I'm not sure what application this is, but you don't have. I mean, it's not even a recommended mod, but it's certainly if your factory mounts are cracked or leaking, you should definitely just replace them anyways. In general, you don't need upgraded motor mounts for stage 1, but it's certainly nice to have. You're going to get a more firm shifting, more firm transfer of power, and certainly our mounts are much more reliable than the factory ones. But I wouldn't wait to do stage 1, but it's a good idea to do if you're interested. Will the Forum Q7 3.0 T-Tune have an E85 map? Yes. I've driven it. It's very fast. Mm-hmm. It's awesome. Yeah, we will have kind of all our standard 91, 93 E85 files for that, for stage 1 at least. Will there possibly be an option such as a drag race only, which can retain the firm shifts and daily map for the B8 climax tune? Some of us want to go fast and don't mind firm shifts. Yeah, no, I mean, we get it. So initially, we are going to update the file to soften the shifts up. I don't think it'll be any slower necessarily.
It's going to be, I mean, almost imperceivably slower. We're talking like hundredths of a second we're dealing with. It's
like milliseconds.
It's that tight of an adjustment we're making.
Yeah, but if voices like this remain, we will consider adding back I thought I came up with a clever name for it.
Did you? Oh, gosh. Okay. We've tossed around like a race file or something like that. I'm sure there's some spin you can put on it.
Yeah. But anyways, so, what I would ask you, sir, who asked this question is, wait for our update, give it a try. Yeah. If you really miss the firmer shifts, then what we would do is double down on the firm shifting, and we could do a whole file that's like, full. Yeah,
we can quick and upload all the shifts. I mean, we're trying to write that balance that's the best fit for the most people we can, but there is potential to do a spicier file.
Yeah. So if you're willing to keep giving us feedback, that way we'd appreciate it. You might try the new file and be like, listen, it's fine. Yeah. The issue for
it's still a fast shift. Like it's not by any means.
It's still a climax shift. The issue for us is the more files there are, the more work it is to support. Every file is a spinning plate. And so the more spinning plates there are, the more back and forth between all the files. So That's just that on our side. It's better for us to have less files to support than more. It's not a free launch.
I got a guy here that's.
Got the climax on my B9.5 and it feels so good. Great to hear. Thank you. The feedback that we've gotten has been mostly positive, and then there's been
The top one's kind of a follow-up for the oil cap thing.
for some reason I keep finding oil surrounding my oil cap with some overspill onto engine parts below. Is this a common issue with B9S4s, and is this something I need to be super concerned about? It sounds like it's probably it could be two things. Either it could be your PCV is blown and you're pressurizing the crankcase, and that pressure is burping out underneath the seal of the cap, which is part of the problem. Is the cap gets pushed up and it loosens the cap. The other issue is you could just have a bad seal on your oil cap. So getting our cap should fix it. If you have a leaking PCV, you're definitely going to want to address that. That's not good. But our cap has a brand new thicker seal with tighter engagement. So if it's just your seal is leaking, then our new cap would definitely fix that. Our new cap would also prevent a catastrophic event like your cap falling off, but you have to fix your PCV issue if you have. Can I get an option in SPI to disable the dongle LEDs for nighttime? This would be ideal. Electrical tape?
Oh, like while it's like in the car,
Yeah.
like while they're like using
While
it,
they're driving, yeah.
logging. It is something we can do pretty easily.
Have we gotten that feedback yet?
That's the first one I've heard. It's possible.
We'll add it to the list.
But yeah, the lights are generally there for a reason. We use them when we're dealing with customers and to determine what's going on with the cable or connection, if it's plugged in fully, kind of thing, and what's communicating. So they do serve a purpose. But yeah, I don't know. I guess your footwell's got a little bit of disco light going on when that's communicating.
B9S4, I hate my H&R lowering springs. I want to switch to 0 through 4 lowering springs with about 25,000 miles on my stock struts. And with H&R, do you think the shocks and struts will handle the 0 through 4 springs? I think so, unless you have a reason to believe your factory shocks have gone bad. You can inspect them. Generally, almost always when struts fail, they leak. If there's an issue with the valving, then fluid goes into the wrong places and it leaks out from the shaft. So I think it's probably okay. Also, if your car's bouncing a lot or anything like that, one thing is when you're on the freeway driving and you have a blown shock, you'll see like the tire bouncing.
Driving next to those critters.
So if you have a friend that can drive next to you and see how your wheels and tires are staying on the ground. But I'll see this all the time. I'll be on the freeway and someone's tire is just like, blah, 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 and it's just one of them because one thing's blown and somehow they don't notice. But no, I think you'll be much happier on our springs. So hopefully you can make the switch successfully. Yep. Not sure if you've done this before, but would there be any way you can do a virtual tour of 034 headquarters for those of us that can't visit that are out of state? That's a really good idea.
I feel like we have enough film.
We can do a reel or something.
Because we filmed a lot of the tour we did for Winterfest. I think we put that together. Yeah,
that would have been the time to do it. It's just to film that tour.
Well, we
have that tour filmed.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah,
that's a great idea. Whoever's asking this, thank you. We should just edit that and put that up. Mm-hmm. Or
it's not
plan on doing.
Yeah, it's not like mic'd up audio quality, so the audio might be a little spotty. But
David had one. He'll be doing in his 45 minutes.
There you go. Yeah, so stay tuned. We'll have some stuff coming, it sounds like.
We do have a feature video on our YouTube channel. If you go, it should be one of the main featured videos, which it's a little dated. That was like 7 years ago. But you get the general idea. I mean, we have our facility has changed a lot, but not that much. Yeah. So definitely go watch that if you haven't. There's a 2-part series about the company, but our goal this year was to update that if we can. MQB Chassis, why no trailing arm upgrade with rubber bushings, spherical only? Yeah, the problem is the rubber is a torsion bushing. So when the arm is clamped in place through the bushing has to twist. And because of the range of motion of that, rear suspension, making the rubber a lot stiffer doesn't allow the range of motion or twisting, and it stresses the rubber a lot. So the spherical is definitely the best solution. But I think for the rubber bushing route, we've chosen not to, just simply because the spherical works perfectly. It functions exactly how the bushing needs to. And honestly, the NVH is not bad. It's pretty minimal.
It's a pretty low compromise with a lot of benefit to the stability and the
we'd recommend going with the modification that we have now. I think you'll be really happy with it, unless you're super sensitive to NVH. But the improvement in stability and handling is transformative to those cars.
Yeah, and there's still rubber in that rear suspension system. The NVH really wasn't bad. I'm remembering back 83 days.
Any tune files to help aid a ported blower for the 3.0 T-bender?
We haven't had the need for a specific tuned or ported file tune. All of the testing we've done, it's metering the pressure differential across the charger. You're going to see that benefit already in the calibration with the amount of air getting in is going to be correlated to manifold pressures and that kind of thing. So it's all already accounting for the port changes essentially on the charger. You're not changing the VE of the motor to that extreme that we need to fully dig in and recalibrate the ECU just for that. We do on the big blowers like the Merc Racing stuff for sure, but on the ported blowers we haven't seen any for that.
Are you guys aware of any cooling changes made to 2023 RS5s? A friend of mine found different charge piping in his B9.5.
There are some changes through from B9 to B9.5. I'm not sure what he's comparing it to, but nothing like...
Yeah, the change on that car was the pipe that goes to the throttle body is like a one-piece intercooler versus the B9s, which was different, and it only mattered because they were installing the IE intercooler.
Right, yeah, I've seen that as well. But functionally, I think they're routed the same. I
believe it's the same.
Pretty dang similar. Just, the way it's implemented is a little different.
Someone's asking about their Pauter Rods. Shoot us an email to tech support at 034motorsport.com just so we can verify that.
Yeah, see what you're talking about.
I don't have that answer off the top of my head. Actually, if Mark is listening, remind me to talk to you about that. Cold start enabling on stage 2 plus. Advanced launch ignition cut B9
platform. Need some update.
Yeah, it's definitely an update.
No, we've talked about this. I think the cold start they're referring to is the catalyst heating on.
You're right.
Test pipe files. There's a reason it's not there. There's no reason for it to be there.
With the cat not being there, you don't need to warm up the cat. So from an engineering standpoint, we remove unnecessary functionality. I know it sounds cool
to some people, and then other people
put like an MP3 on your phone of the sound of it, and then turn that on.
But so we talked a little bit about this earlier. When we start doing stuff like that, then you're dealing with that whole new set of files now for all of the other applications, and then you're doing a revision for something or doing updates or adding new features. You gotta go in and you just by making one tweak, you've now doubled your workload. So it's simple. It's not coming would suffice. We've talked about it before, so that's why we just want to reiterate why it's not coming, because it does get asked quite a bit for stuff like this and little feature add-ons.
I think my MP3 idea was actually pretty good.
It's pretty good.
I think you could benefit from that. So something you might want to consider.
Advanced launch is also in the works. We've talked about this a bunch, and we've said a number of times it likely isn't going to be an ignition cut launch per se, just because the ZF8, you need to load up the torque converter on that to get off the line. But we will have varying levels of torque, power, launch strategy as well. People want to know if there's a party mode in park control. We have talked about that.
The whole cold start thing, you have to think about it from a calibrator mentality. The ECU controls functionality in the engine, and there are different control processes in the ECU that control the different functions of the engine. You have a part of the ECU that controls how the engine idles. Arguably, if you had an engine application that never idled, then you would just delete all that functionality or turn that off in the ECU, because if the engine would never idle, there's no reason to have idle tuning or calibration functionality. So once you remove the catalytic converter, there's this catalyst warm-up cold start functionality that's no longer needed. So from a calibration standpoint, you turn all that off, because you don't add functionality in the ECU for something that doesn't exist or isn't needed, right? So it's a very pragmatic calibrating and tuning approach, which comes, from optimizing the calibration to run the engine system and all the different ways that the ECU controls the engine. So for us, some of this stuff we have to put the engineering sensibility aside and be like, well, people like the sound of this, and is that worth it? So that's why we haven't, and probably why we won't.
Yeah. And it's not everyone wants it. It's tricky. We run into this with the crackle effect all the time. Some people, tune the car just to get crackles. Other people don't want anything to do with crackles. So
yeah. And then the shifts, we're getting a myriad of people in this last hour. We've had people complain about the climax shift, and we have other people say we want to keep it the same,
or make it even spicier. So
which is why I was trying to make the point earlier that it's not an issue. It's just literally what people's preference is. And ideally, there could be knobs on all this stuff, but that's not possible, unfortunately. Hi guys, do you sell the hose for the Super Duper Turbo inlet by itself? I don't believe we do on our website. If you want to email customer service, you can ask them. We can sell individual parts by themselves if it's warranted. I guess we'd want to know why and what's going on.
Sometimes they just forget to purchase a conversion kit. They buy just the turbo.
We do sell conversion kits, which has the hose, and you're going to get maybe some extra things. But I don't know. We're here to help, but we're not here to enable the use of our products outside the way we intend for them to be used. So we have to be a little careful with that, because we've been burned in the past. We sell someone one part and they try to use it for something else, and it doesn't work, and the whole thing blows up. So. Ordered a 19 S4 from basically across the country because of y'all. Keep up the badassery. Oh, thank you. It's good to hear a little positive as well. Appreciate that, and looking forward to helping with that project.
Yep.
Any plans to develop a KO4 tune for the 2.0T platform?
We have the B8 file up. I don't know how much more we're going to be doing of the B8.5. I'm talking A4 here.
Yeah.
We did we have the Mark 6 Golf R turbo tunes up. So yeah, there's certainly some up there.
Let's keep climax and not submit to them ones with sensitive nipples.
Hey, what's wrong with sensitive nipples?
Woof. I'll leave that. B9.5 Q5 3.0T 034 lower control arm kit did reference the internet, but cannot seem to figure out where the washer from the kit goes. I'm guessing it's for the lower strut control arm bolt washer or spacer. I don't know. Based on this,
sure which washer.
You could email tech support if you'd like. Keep in mind that our hardware kits apply to a myriad of different applications, and so that there are some pieces of hardware that may not apply to your Q5 application. But shoot us an email. We're always happy to help if we can. Any further releases for the 3.0T Supercharged product catalog?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely. We're still
working on it.
assuming that's B8, B8.5. Yeah, we're still B8, B8.5 is still a primary application for us. We're constantly doing product development for that application.
There's
Definitely stay tuned for more. Although we have
a lot.
You could build
but
like
there is
7 different performance cars with our catalog.
brand new prototype hardware sitting on my desk right now. So
Yeah.
yes, we got a lot of stuff coming.
Yeah, a lot more coming from that. All right, well, I think we're out of time.
Oh wow!
Thank you all for the questions. Hey, the good and bad ones. Happy to address all of it. I don't mind being called a liar as long as you're willing to hear my response as well. All right. We'll talk to you guys next week. Cheers.
Take care.